When we start a presentation at Royal Roads University, it's very important for us to acknowledge the traditional lands that we are on. So Royal Roads University is on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen and the Kosapsan families and nations, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt. This statement means that we at Royal Roads recognize the importance of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people coming together and their relationship as we continue to learn, play, work, and where the history, present, past, and future all come together. Maybe you know the indigenous land that you are on today. Please feel free to enter it in the chat. You can as well just introduce yourself in the chat, letting us know what you're looking forward to learn today as we spend this hour together. We are here to talk about the Master of Arts and the Master of Science in Environment and Management. And I'm very delighted to have Dr. Chris Ling with me. Chris, would you like to say hi?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Very nice to be with you, Chris. Chris has a lot of knowledge about the program, so we're in good hands. And my name is Nancy Prévost-Maurice. I am an education specialist here at Royal Road. So I do a lot of student recruitment, traveling in Canada, and doing a bunch of webinars to meet with you prospects and answer any question you might have. We don't have anyone from our enrollment services today, but I'll make sure to share some links in the chat with you. And this session is being recorded, so do not worry, you will get a recording link and you will get all the links to the website that you need. I see some people introduce themselves here. Thank you, thank you. And this is the agenda we have for today. We're doing the welcome and the intro. We'll talk briefly about Royal Roads and the student experience at Royal Road. We'll talk about the program-specific information, admission requirements, and we'll answer your question, mostly at the end, but if you have any burning question, you can pop them in the chat as we go through the session. So yeah, please use the chat to let us know where you're joining from, traditional lands if you know it, just to give us a little bit of understanding of who is in the session today. We have over 100 people registered today, so that's fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us. And here, maybe you're listening to this webinar right now and you're asking yourself, why will I go to Royal Roads University? So maybe you can even use your reaction button to give me a thumbs up if you know Royal Roads or if you came to Royal Roads before. Can I see a show of hands? A few people, thank you. So thank you so much. So Royal Roads University, I'll describe the campus a bit later. We are in Victoria, British Columbia, and we just got our new brochure, which I'm pretty excited about. And I was very impressed to learn that we were voted #1 best country for quality of life on the US News Best Country ranking, and also #2 best country overall. So that's pretty cool. So we're in Canada, British Columbia, Victoria, BC. We do a lot of programs, as we'll talk, online, blended, or fully on campus. And when we talk about Royal Roads University, we like to say that we do things differently. And it's because we see life as a qualification. So really, our admission process is all about what you have done in the past, where you are now, and where you want to go in the future. It's not just about grades and just education. It's about the life experience, the work experience, education, volunteering, all coming together as a whole. Prof who know your name, for me, that's an important one. I'm actually doing my master's at Royal Road, and the fact that we can build relationship with the cohort and with the professors, it's very fantastic. It's very uplifting because we get to know the prof and they get to know us as well. So we're learning with and from our instructors. Learning based on life. A little bit like I mentioned before, we are a university built for working professional. So we really want you to connect theory and practice together. So you can bring real life, real world challenge into the classroom and discuss them with your instructor and your cohort. So that's pretty unique. Connection for life. We have a an amazing network of alumni everywhere in the world. Those alumni now are hiring our graduates, our students, and the people you will meet at Railroads, even if you're online or if you're on campus or if you're in hybrid, you will see that you build relationship with your cohort that you will keep for decades. People still come sometime on campus years after they graduated to meet, or they will connect on LinkedIn and share some information, some new employment opportunities. So that's very great to see. And we were built differently. As I mentioned, we were built for leaders, for people who want to change the world, create a positive impact in this world. And we are a university for working professionals, as I said. So the average age can be 30 and older. Some people are continuing their education. Some people have stopped and now are back into the classroom. So that brings really a unique diversity into the classroom. I'm just looking, I didn't forget anything here. I'll just check the chat in a few minutes. And here, as before I introduce you to a few pictures of Railroads, we are a Changemaker campus. So Ashoka U, you can Google that, that name. It's an accreditation that we're very proud of. And it's all about social innovation in higher education through a global network of entrepreneurial students, faculty, and community leaders. So there's not a lot of institutions in North America to have that accreditation. So we're very proud of it. And before I pass it over to Chris, just a few pictures here. I always like to show you how it looks like here at Railroad. So on the top left, you have Hatley Castle. It was built as a retirement house in 1908. Can you believe that? For the Dunsmuir family. Then it became a military college, and now we're an institution since 1995. So if you ever have the chance to come to Railroad, as we'll talk in this program with the blended option, then you can visit the castle. Sometimes we do some events, classrooms in the castle. And the castle is facing the Esquimalt Lagoon. So the bottom left, you can see it's a bird sanctuary. It's beautiful. We have the Olympic Mountain. So the states are just on the other side of that beautiful piece of water. Japanese garden to the top right. We have 565 acres of land. So a lot for you to walk around, bike around, run. And at the bottom right, we do online learning for 25 years. So maybe some of you are like myself, you went to maybe a more traditional institution, university in the past, and the learning was really unidirectional. So you sit there, you have a lecture, and that's it. So for us, online learning, it's really dynamic. So you have a bunch of tools to really connect with the instructors, connect with your cohort. And it's not something we have been doing since the pandemic. It's really something we do for 25 years. So we're pretty good at it. We were built to do online learning. So you will see a huge difference with other institutions. And I'll pass it over to you, Chris, as I look for question in the chat.
Thanks very much, Nancy. And so I'm going to be going through basically what's included in the MEM program and a little bit of information about the actual learning experience. And if you have any questions while we go through that, please don't hesitate to pop them in the chat. It'd be much more engaging if I'm responding to a few questions as we go along. So don't be shy, post them there. So yeah, we've got 3 delivery models at Royal Roads. We have the an on-campus model, which is your traditional coming to university and getting your education in the classroom. We have online, which is entirely online programs, and we also have what the MEM blended program is, which is what we call a blended program, which is where it's a mixture of the two. So you do some courses online, some courses in the classroom, in what we call our residencies, which is where you come to campus for 2 or 3 weeks, and the bulk of the instruction of in-course is given in an intensive period over those 3 weeks. And they're a very rich learning environment, and gives people a chance to sort of disconnect from their day-to-day lives and really focus on their learning, which is something that you can't do with the purely online or the purely on campus, because it's that short, intense opportunity that really gives it that strength. You may also be aware that there is an on-campus version of the MA in Environmental Management. I'm not going to be specifically talking about that here today. If there are people on the call who have questions about it, I will try and answer them. But I'm predominantly involved with the blended version of the MEM program, which is also MA and MSc, which is unique to that. Okay, so we can probably just skip over that slide, Nancy. All right, so who do we have in the MEM program? Well, typically we have people who are professionals that are already working in the environmental field, but not exclusively. And so we do have some people who have built up work experience in other career paths, but want to either transition into the environmental field, they want a change of career, or the job that they're doing is increasingly involved with environmental questions. And that's something we're seeing more and more often at the moment. Our students are all very passionate and involved in environmental issues, whether that's through their work or through their volunteer time. And although many of them have an undergraduate degree in science or environmental science, also many don't. So, if you're coming into the MSc stream, then you will need an undergraduate degree that's science related. There's no need to have got a degree in an environmentally directly in an environmentally related degree, as long as you've got work experience in that area. Our students look to, are looking to sort of move into management and leadership positions within the environmental sector. And we also have, as I said, people who have currently a non-environmental background, but are seeking to either refocus or expand their expertise and knowledge. So the way the program works is it takes just over 2 years of study. And during the course of that period, you'll be picking up 36 credits of graduate level courses. And this is a mixture of online courses and on-campus residencies, for which we have 2 3-week residencies that take place in the first 3 weeks of October in your first 2 years. And then a 2-week residency that takes place at the same time, but it's only 2 weeks in length. Then between the residencies, in the first year, you take at least one, but potentially 2 or 3 online courses. And in the second year, there's no kind of compulsory courses that take place online during that period. But you have to take some electives during the program as a whole. So you may choose to take those in the first year, you may choose to take those in the second year. And during that 2 years, you'll also complete either a research thesis or a major project that will help you to both apply the knowledge you've got from the program to a problem or a challenge that you've identified in your community or in your work or in the real world in some way. And produce a capstone piece of work that integrates all that learning that you've made.
And a question we get a lot, Chris, is about the residency. Is it a Monday to Friday kind of 8 to 5?
Yeah, more or less, although you are expected to be on campus. And although there might not be formal class during the weekends or in the evenings, there is an expectation during the residencies that you're available to do teamwork, where you'll be in teams for the residency doing assignments and project work. And so there's an expectation that you're in the classroom. It's roughly 8:30 to 4:30 or whatever it happens to be on any given day. There are also evening activities. There are also the team and project work that needs to go on. So the expectation is, even if you're not in class obviously it would be impossible to be in class for the entire 3 weeks, but there is an expectation that you'll be doing some additional work outside the classroom as well. So it is a residency, although you don't have to stay on campus, and indeed there's not really capacity for everybody usually to stay on campus anyway. But you are expected to be available for to work with your team during that period. So I mean, people do have the opportunity during that time to take a day off at the weekend to go, you know, exploring if you're not from the region, but it's not like a you know, it's not restricted to just the timetabled classroom time. And then I noticed there was a question which Nancy's answered about the admission, which, yeah, that's right. And Anam asked to offer a scholarship for PhD. This isn't a PhD program, Anam, so I can't speak to that. However, if you're interested, Royal Roads doesn't have a PhD program. It has a Doctor of Social Science or a Doctor of Business Administration program. If you're interested in that, you should look at the website for the information there. And there's also, and this goes for everybody, if you're interested in trying to find funding, we have a great website, which is Financial Aid and Awards, I think it's called, which you can find on the Royal Roads website, and that gives you information about the various funding opportunities that may exist through the university. All right, so just a brief overview in case you're interested in our MA on-campus version, which I'm not directly involved with, but that runs for 19 months, and that's all on campus. And it's ideal for international students as it meets you know, educational residency requirements for visas for international students. So again, but in terms of curriculum, it's similar. It's not exactly the same, but structurally it's quite different, and you have to be you know, in the classroom at any given time during the certainly the first 12 months of the program.
And Chris, I know we say the one on campus is a new program, but how long have been the blended around for?
The blended program was one of the first programs started at the start of the Royal Roads University, right back in 20 whatever years ago it is. So it's a long running program. It's been obviously it's not quite the same as it was when it started. It's evolved over time, but yes, it's not a new program at all.
Fantastic.
Okay, so here are just a list. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but it just gives you the indication of what the curriculum is like for the blended program. We have 6 core courses, and 5 of those are delivered through the 3 residencies. The exception is EMVR 550, Research and Analysis, which is an online course that you take in January in your first year. Essentially in a sort of second term. The list on the right is the on-campus version of the program, so you can see that there are differences there, but the core is basically the same. And many of the courses you see listed on the right-hand side are actually also available online as an elective in the blended version. So just because they're not listed doesn't mean you can't take them necessarily. It's just you know, it's not a core compulsory part of the program. So I think probably the next slide might list some of those options. Is that right, Nancy? Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, never mind. But it's very easy to find all the elective options that we have. They're listed on the website on the program schedule. And in addition, if you find courses at other institutions or even at Royal Roads that we don't list but you'd like to take, there's always the opportunity to ask if that would be suitable. So you can certainly you know, consider broader than the list that we do provide for your elective courses. And that leads us nicely into how many elective courses you need to take. Well, that depends whether you do a thesis or a major project as your capstone course. So if we could just jump to the next slide there, please, Nancy. And as you can see, the master's thesis is 12 credits and the master's project is a 9-credit option. So if you do the project, you have to do 2 elective courses. And if you do the thesis, it's 1 elective course. So the difference between the 2 is, I mean, people sort of describe it in different ways. The way I like to describe it is that the thesis is about identifying a question that is yet to be answered and collecting data and analyzing the data to help you answer that question. And because we're an applied program, we ask you to make recommendations as a result of that research that you've done. A project, in contrast, is more about identifying a practical challenge that you can apply existing knowledge to in a way that helps to solve that problem. So one's about the creation of new knowledge, and the other is about the application of existing knowledge to solve or to work through a project or a challenge that you've identified. And that's usually in collaboration with an external organization or community group or something like that. It doesn't have to be, but typically that's the way they work. They're both, challenging experiences, and they both, require a fair degree of investment of time and effort. But the research project doesn't have quite the level of academic requirement involved, that you're not expected to situate yourself in the literature in the same way as you would with a thesis. You don't have to have an external examination in order to pass. So, the academic, the amount of work in terms of effort is broadly similar, but the academic challenge of the thesis is slightly greater, hence the additional number of credits.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but students don't have to pick to know when they apply for
They
those.
do not need to know.
Okay.
That's right, but it can help to sort of understand the sort of the process that you're going to have to go through when you're in the program.
Fantastic. And can they talk with you and the instructors about
certainly
which
can,
one?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And we have dedicated thesis coordinators, research coordinators attached to the program, who will available also to help with that conversation.
Thank you. That was a question I got here. And I see another question in the chat. What is the approximate percentage of students that have already kind of a management background going into the program?
It's slightly hard to say. It depends on what you call management, I guess. We don't usually have many people who come from a sort of a managerial background in terms of sort of their academic journey. They have degrees in management or whatever. We do, however, have, always at least sort of a third to a half of any given cohort have management experience in their resumes. All right, and just there's another question about application fees for international students. You'd have to talk to our international student admissions people about that. Debussy, I hope I pronounced your name correctly there. But yes, I can't give you any information about that myself, I'm afraid. So you'll have to talk to the international admissions advisors, who will be delighted to help you and figure out the answer to your question. So here we have just some examples of the faculty that teach in our School of Environment and Sustainability. So we have myself in the middle there. I teach one of the courses as well as running the program. We also have my colleague Bill Dushenko, who's illustrated by a very attractive flower. Is also teaches with me in the first residency. So we're the first two faculty that you'll come across in the classroom when you start the program. We both of us also teach in the on-campus version of the program as well. We have our third residency is a single course, and that's taught by Alice McGilvery, who's in the top left there. And she is a consultant and an academic with many years of experience in leadership on environmental issues. She's done a lot of work with people like Parks Canada, for example. We also have the other three on that page, Rob Newell, Sarah Wolf, and Derek Masalink. They're also Rob and Derek teach, they both teach in the on-campus version of the program. Rob teaches elective courses in the blended version, and Sarah teaches the research and analysis course in the blended program. So they're all examples of what we call scholar practitioners. So they're all people who have both academic and also practical experience. They've we've all worked in real jobs as well as just in academia. And so, we try and bring some of that practical experience into the classroom, along with all the information that you can bring from your own careers and backgrounds, which we very much form part of the learning in the classroom as well.
And I believe, Chris, that Robert and Sarah just won an award for their teaching excellence or something. Huh?
They did, yes. Yeah, we have internal awards for teaching excellence, and both Rob and Sarah have won that. I believe also Alice has won that in the past.
Wow.
As well. So, and it's quite an honor. We have a lot of faculty at Royal Roads, both core faculty and associate faculty, and not many win the award. So it just we've had a higher number in our program that have won that awards than I think many others. So
that's great. Yeah, always a good sign. I'm just looking at more questions. I'll continue with the application process. I'm looking in the chat. Some people are asking, when we receive our letter of admission, what is the payments kind of schedule? So my answer to that is, when you receive your letter of acceptance, it always comes with the next steps. And the way we're based, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but most of our course are 10 weeks, and then you break a little bit, another 10 weeks.
10 to 12 weeks, yeah.
10 to 12 weeks, perfect. And in my case, this is how the invoice will work. So kind of at the end of each course, we'll get an invoice for the next course. So you don't have to pay all the money at once, which is amazing. So we split it many times per year.
Yeah, I believe is there also a deposit when you register as well, right at the start, just sort of tuition deposit, but that gets credited to your first courses as well. So
oh, and someone is asking the question I asked you earlier, Chris, about what's the difference.
Nancy and I were actually having a conversation about that before the webinar started. But the difference between the Master of Science and the Master of Arts, in terms of the core curriculum, they are identical. You'll all be in the classroom together. It's an interdisciplinary program, very deliberately. We like to have people exposed to the other side of the disciplinary spectrum. It's very important to understanding all the challenges and the problems of the modern world. And in terms of the differences, it'll depend on the electives you take. So the course list for the electives is different for the MA versus the MSc. There are courses which are in both, but there is a sort of separate approved list. It also will influence the topic that you do for your major research project or your thesis. If you have, if you're doing the MSc, the expectation is your thesis will be on a topic related to natural science or something similar. Whereas if you're doing an MA, the expectation is your topic is more related to things like social science or governance or something like that. And they are, of course, almost all the theses in the program fall somewhere between those two. So, there is a lot of gray area, but that's the fundamental difference. It also, also is dependent on your background as well. So, we're not providing a pure science education here. So in order to give you an MSc, you need to have a science background, usually as represented by whatever undergraduate degree you did. Although, if you've done, if you have some MA, some BA undergraduate degrees have a lot of science within them. If you've been using that in a professional capacity as well, there's a flexible way of getting into that. But that's the general pattern between the two. And Anna asked if what's the eligibility for admission to the MSc? Well, it's the admission requirements are on the website, but broadly speaking, if you're coming in under standard admission, you need to have a BSc in a suitable subject, which is a very broad range. We're trying to encourage people to come into the environmental sector, not the other way around. But there has to be science content in that degree of fairly sort of substantial amount. And that's about it really, along with the sort of the work experience requirements. If you're coming in as flexible assessment because you don't have an undergraduate degree, then it's about demonstrating you have that scientific knowledge through your work experience or through other means. So, you know, if you've got an MPhil in environmental science, I suspect that would, I mean, we can't definitively say without seeing things like your transcripts and stuff like that, but I would imagine that would be sufficient to come into the MSc of the environmental management.
Thank you. I see the question about English requirements, and I will touch base on it in a few seconds. Is there anything else in the chat? I'll keep moving with how to apply, but as we go through, feel free to interrupt Chris if we see other questions, and I'll take some time at the end as well. So I see many people are asking what are the next steps or how to apply if they want to. So here are what we discussed about, just to build on what Chris just mentioned about standard admission and flexible admission. So this is something we're really proud of at Railroads, is that it's not just about standard admission. You have to have a certain education requirement and then you get into the program. We also do flexible admission to allow more people to be able to come into our classrooms. So the standard admission, as some people asked in the chat before, so we ask for a 4-year or comparable undergrad degree in a related field. And again, related field, you'll have more information on the website about what that means. And we ask a minimum GPA of B from a recognized post-secondary institution. Plus your 4-year, we ask 2 years of relevant work or volunteer experience. And again, it's because the program is for people kind of already working in the field or in something similar, wanted to gain experience. So people are not kind of the 0 level. You have already a little bit of education and work experience to come into the program. And if you have the degree requirement, but not the GPA, for example, your GPA will be C or B minus, then we will ask you to take the academic writing and critical thinking. This is a course offered by Professional and Continuous Studies at Railroads. And this is an amazing course. I've done it a few years ago. So it's really bring you up to speed to how to do APA citation, how to read research papers, how to be more efficient into your graduate studies. And if you do this course, then we ask you to have a final grade of B, which is about 73%. And as Chris mentioned, students intending to pursue the MSc stream must possess a science-focused undergrad degree. And if this is not you don't recognize yourself here, that might mean that you can come with us, with flexible admission. And flexible admission, it's not something you have to check as you apply to Railroads. This is the admission advisor that will review your file as you apply and let you know if you need to supply more documents, for example. But flexible, it's a minimum of 6 years of relevant work experience or a combo of education and experience for about 6 years. Everyone that come into flexible admission will take the course I just mentioned, academic writing and critical thinking. And this needs to be done a few weeks, like several weeks before your start date. So for example, if you're thinking of next September, you can look into that course and register right now for this course, so you're sure to have enough time in between to graduate this course, then join the cohort in September. And same thing here, MSc, we ask you to have some science with your undergrad or with your work experience, as Chris just said. And this is assessed on a case-by-case basis. So this is another cool thing we do at Railroads. You don't have to wait for the deadline to apply. You can apply now for September 2023, even for September 2024.
So I'd just like to jump in with a couple of questions here. So we've got a question about, is the program accredited for membership for an RP Bio? No, we're not accredited RP Bio. I actually don't know if any of our faculty in the school have RP Bio accreditation. However, I do know that we have had students that have, depending on the elective courses they've taken, have successfully applied for membership as an RP Bio. But obviously that depends very much what their undergraduate degree was and what professional experience they've had. So we're not a pathway to becoming an RP Bio, but we can be helpful if depending on your other background experience in that direction. And then a question from Zion versus Eden. I'd like to apply GIS and remote sensing in my thesis. We don't have any specific modules currently in GIS or remote sensing. We do have a couple of faculty with some experience in that area. So if you were looking to do that in your thesis, we have had on a number of occasions people doing theses involving spatial analysis and such like. We do have some faculty who do have some experience in that. So, we can offer supports. But again, I'd recommend, if you were going in that direction, if you didn't have any experience at all, but you wanted to move into spatial analysis, it probably isn't the right program for you. But if you've already got spatial analysis experience and want to apply that in your thesis, we do have faculty that be able to support that.
Great.
And then, here's a really good question from DeBC. And it says, please, do I need to approach a supervisor and wait for a response for a research sponsor before applying? Absolutely not. We don't require you to pick your supervisor until you've started the program. And we have processes in place to help you through that process. Sponsorship is entirely up to you. We have occasionally opportunities within the school, for example, of funded projects, and there are of course sort of sponsorship opportunities not attached to faculty, such as SHIRC and MyTax, which are two sort of big sources of funding for student projects. But you don't have to do lining any of that up prior to you coming to the program. If you do have a project in mind and you're coming to the program and you want to talk to some faculty, then most people are happy to be approached by students coming in and getting that conversation started, but there's no requirement for it. You don't have to list a supervisor in your application materials. Are there opportunities for work placement or internships? No, we don't have a workplace component to the degree. The expectation on the most part is that the students coming to do the MEM program are already working, and so there isn't an opportunity for work placements, as the vast majority of our students are not looking for that opportunity. That saying, if you take, say, for example, a major research project route, you can work with an external organization, and we've had lots of examples of students which have taken thesis or project opportunities working with another organization, have then been very successful in carrying on after their degree working with that organization. So that's quite a common situation as well. But it's not a formalized institutional work placement.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, that gave us a lot of information. Do you want to answer that one and then I continue?
Yeah, I will. Yes, both thesis and projects are available for the on-campus version of the MEP. And I'm afraid I have no idea what PGWP is.
This is the work program. I always struggle to remember, but this is when people want to come and study and live in Canada.
Okay, yeah, you'll have to talk to the international admissions advisors about that.
Yeah, exactly. But I think thesis and project were both part of the MA.
Yes, they are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. So Eric, I'll make sure to connect you with someone here at the international team. Fantastic. And if we keep going with the how to apply, I know some people have been asking for application fee waiver. For now, we don't provide any in our team, as Chris say, and Chris' team or my team. And the application fee is $131.39 at Railroads to get started, Canadian dollars. So you go at railroads.ca, you click apply, you pay that fee, and then you will get a list of all the steps, all the next steps you need to do, and the supporting documents that you have to provide. We're just about to transition to a system that will allow you to upload all the documents online, because as of now, you have to send them to the admission team by email, but we're slowly getting there. So you will be able to easily just upload your documents, such as official transcripts of all past post-secondary institution that you attended. And I know someone asked in the chat about the English language proficiency. So we have a section on the website about it. I was just looking as you asked the question. And if you already study, for example, in an English speaking country, or if you have a degree in an English institution, you are good to go for your English at Railroads. If it's not the case, then you will have to submit a test that show us that your English is good enough for the program. I had to do it, so I've been through those steps. But yeah, it's all written on the website again, but you said that you have a degree already in English, so you should be good. So the official transcript, we want to learn, as we said before, who you are, what you have achieved in the past at other institutions. We ask a detailed resume. So that resume, you can talk about all the volunteering experience you did, work, education, everything we need to know again on you. Personal statement. Personally, that was my favorite part when I apply at Railroad. So you sit and you have a few questions, a few guidelines on the website, but you really sit with yourself and you ask yourself, okay, what did I do before that is related to environment and management? Where do I want to go? If some grades were not that good at other institutions, why is the reason? So you really tell us the biggest picture about yourself, so the admission advisor can better understand who you are. And finally, 2 letters of reference. We often ask an academic one and a professional one. And those letters, your referees will send them to the admission team directly. So again, we can better understand why you want to apply to the program. If you have a permanent resident card, we'll ask you for a copy of that. And if some of your transcripts are coming from international, from abroad, from outside Canada, we will ask as well for evaluation fee, because we can do it. We can do the translation here for you, or you can use a credential evaluation report, some outside organization that we work with. And again, they are listed on the website. So I hope that gives you a good overview here. And some people were asking, when are the upcoming intakes? Here we go. So the next one will be September 5th. And this is for the blended, as Chris mentioned. So you are mostly online, but you come a few times on campus for a few weeks. The next blended will be September 2024. It's already available online if you need more time, but you already want to apply and secure your seat. And if you're looking mostly to come on campus fully, then that will be March 11, 2024. So September is the blended option and March is the on-campus option. And you will see the dates are about 6 months in advance, 6 to 3 months in advance to apply, just the time that we get your application, get your documents, work with you to set you up for success, not to be too last minute, but really giving you the time you need to be ready to come to school online or on campus.
Yeah, so there's a question about, can you apply with an unofficial transcript and then submit an official one later? I believe the answer to that is yes. However, any offer would be conditional on that official transcript being received.
That's exactly it.
So yes, you can get the process rolling with an unofficial transcript, but you'll have to submit the official one eventually.
Yeah, conditional offer will be sent to you, and you'll have a specific timeline to send your official transcript.
Yeah,
because we get people sometimes that are still in the college and they want to apply. So this is how we work with them too.
And Ray asks, is there an up-and-coming intake for the online-only option? There is not an online version of the MEM program.
Yeah.
There is, however, an online program called the Masters of Environmental Practice, which has quite a different structure. And so I don't know if you have a webinar coming up about that at all, Nancy, but
we just did one last week. That's a good idea.
Okay.
I'll send you the recording, Ray. This one is fully online.
Yeah, so that's the Masters of Environmental Practice program.
Great idea. Yeah, I'll send you that, Ray. Thank you. And you're right. Sometimes I have the tendency to say online, but this is the blended program in September and the on-campus in March. And as we discussed briefly, financial aid and award, we totally understand that going back to school is a huge component. Money is important. So please visit that website here, royalroad/admission/financial aid awards, and you can meet with them. So maybe browse the website a little bit. And if you have questions, feel free to connect. The advisor there, they all know about the internal and external grants and loans and funding you might get in Canada or in other countries as well. And enrollment services, they are the people that really know all the little details you have been asking. So quite easy to reach the team, learn.more at railroads.ca. You can meet with them on Zoom or just by email, or you can request more information, some webinar recordings. You can even ask to connect with a student or a graduate from the program to really better understand the student experience. So I think I don't see any more questions. Thank you for joining
yeah,
us.
I did actually have another question which came
Yes.
through by direct message, which again addresses this point about the application fee waiver for, and which I believe you answered, Nancy. We don't have an application fee waiver.
Not for the time being, no.
That's not an option, so.
Exactly, yeah. Connecting with financial aids will be the best, yeah, the best answer, I think, to that, so they can see if they can do anything with the application fee. Is there any more question? And I saw that Evans, you had your hands up before, so I'll just stop the recording here, but we can stay on to answer a few more questions, and I'll make sure to send you the recording with more links today or tomorrow. Thank you so much, Chris, for your time. I'll stop the recording. Have a fantastic day, everyone.